who you are, and I'll introduce you who I am.
Yeah, we could do that. Okay, so
Hey,
I am Samuel MacPaul, philosopher extraordinaire, but I'm surpassed by the wisdom of the artist formerly known as La Funk Badger. Yeah.
hi, this is Cell Nightshade, and I'm in fact counter surpassed by my good friend.
Oh,
It's
the
good to be back.
compliments. It is. It's
Oh
great
yeah,
to be back. I've been excited about this. I've been excited about this. So we were discussing hatred. So
really?
yeah, we were discussing hate because we got some hate. We got
Okay.
some hate. It was like that was the most energetic response we got to our last like video, blog, vlog, podcast, whatever you want to call it. So we critiqued the riot, Capitol Hill, Trumpism. Someone on the right saw our post, didn't like it, and gave us a "go forth and multiply" message.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
that means F you, but we don't swear on YouTube, do we? So,
No. So it just this raw feeling, this raw disgust with us, that reactionary. I don't like this. I'm just going to try and put them down and stop them. Like, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel less or more determined?
more determined. Opposition only enhances my passion to do something. It's like that defiant mindset. But of course, we are the snowflakes because we're so cowardly for critiquing society and going against their mainstream values. That makes us the snowflakes. Oh, you see these statues of these slave owners that you've been celebrating for like the last 200-300 years. Don't you think that really alienates black people? Like, don't you think that really alienates like don't you think like it really alienates like anyone with a social conscience? Like, oh, so don't you think we should just like take them down because they're not really like they don't really chime with today's values since we're a very inclusive society these days? Oh, that upsets you. Oh, sorry. And we're the snowflakes. Sorry. Okay.
Good point. And I imagine, Sam, that a lot of people don't really care about those statues. They'd never go and see them. It's just like, oh, look, someone's trying to change something. Let's stop them from changing it so we can freeze time
There's
and live our non-utopia.
they wouldn't even know who they. It's only I'd say the reserve of the educated few who would even know who those statues are. Most people just walk past statues and go and buy their Kleenex from the pound shop. Yeah, so like they're not even aware of who these historical figures are. But the moment there's some change, you get that knee jerk response. I would say they probably know they probably know the sacred cow of Winston Churchill, who we are not allowed to criticize for his
No.
his famines, his man-made famines in Bengal, like which is equitable to half a Holocaust. But we can't say anything about that because who could criticize Winston Churchill in Western society?
Or he's flunked and totally messed up military misadventures. Can't criticize his
No,
failings there. But
no.
never mind.
Like he's perfect. He's perfect in all ways. So we kind of got quite far on this culture war, but not we didn't delve into some aspects of it. I felt like we didn't delve into gender
I
and
agree with that. And also,
LGBTQ.
we laid out that we started to lay things out, started to get a bit deep, and then we ran out of time. But
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be like a 520 part. To be honest, like we're on part two. Oh, okay, not 520, maybe 268 part. But no, it's going to be long, and that's fine. We will keep the dialogue going until we get somewhere. But we will get somewhere. So all the haters, all the reactionary writers, like who are throwing hate at us, like don't worry, we're not just blathering snowflakes. And obviously we are that, but more so, we want solutions. We want the culture war to culminate in something better, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. So, why do you think the right have such an issue with people identifying as different genders? Where do you think that comes from?
Good question. Well, it is upsetting the order, isn't it? The old order of man and woman and marriage, and this kind of path you can take, and it's like introducing it's often things are ridiculed, new things are ridiculed, new genders. People say, "Oh, that's just nonsense." It will never work, and then actually, things it ain't so bad at the end.
I mean,
It's triggering an anxiety response, isn't it?
but if you think about the scale of it, like how many people in society actually identify as trans or non-binary? It's like it's such a minority, isn't it? If you think of people, and they're very vulnerable, like how much is it going to challenge their everyday lived existence just to acknowledge someone else? I can't see it upsetting the apple cart. like if like say if it's 2% of society that classifies as non-binary, and I don't know the statistics, I don't know, but I would hazard a guess that it's not the overwhelming majority. Like, how much is it going to change their daily lifestyle? I mean, the reality is not very much, but I think what we've seen. I was watching Awakening Life, and I don't know if you've watched it, but there's this philosopher in it, and he's talking about change and the rapidity of change, and how change is kind of is coming along a lot more quickly because of radical developments in society. So, okay, like if you look at the Roman Empire, it was there for like 1,000 years, and it took a long time to rise and fall. And then you had the Byzantine Empire, which was an offshoot of it. Compare that with the British Empire, like 300 years. Compare that with American dominance, what, like 70 years. Like what you're seeing is it's just like a condensing, like a microcosm, a macrocosm. It's all condensing, and it's because we've got these new industries. So the Industrial Revolution that led to the British Empire becoming surpassed, and now we've got the era of the internet. And before you had like the invention of the printing press, and that radically changed society, causing a renaissance. And now we've got the internet, and it's like society's critiquing itself ever more faster. And I think I think let's be generous, as you was in the last episode. So right, things are changing at a faster pace than they've probably ever changed before. When you and I went to school, and I assume we're similar ages. I'm 36. Section 28 was still in law, right? So
homosexual.
Yeah. So do you ever remember anything about homosexuality being spoken about by teachers in an organised manner?
I mean, I don't remember my school years now, so not really.
Complete blank.
We did sex education.
Yeah.
We did sex education, but we didn't. There's no LGBT stuff in it at all.
Was it a complete blank? Like there was. So yeah, there wasn't any LGBT, and that's my point. So I can remember when I was 18, like campaigning to get Section 28 repealed. And now look how far society has come. It's come so much. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not one of these with like with the spectacles on. But you look at the literature, the scientific literature. Like gay kids are now committing suicide at a far lower rate than they were 20 years ago, and that's largely due to societal acceptance. So, is this such a bad thing? like why is the right so opposed to this?
I think there's. I mean, I've seen some like crazy conspiratorial level thinking, as always, about it's going to undermine the family, the perfect nuclear family, or whatever, or that. You hear the usual stuff. Gays are going around, they're grooming people to become gay, and that's the same with the trans stuff. They're saying trans people are going around, they're telling them to make other people trans and all this stuff. It's just a total misunderstanding of how kind of sexuality and identity works. Which, as far as I know, is kind of innate, isn't it? It's innate to you. You don't really don't choose. So it's like, I don't know. It's just another way to brutalize people and put people down, and another scapegoat to attack, and not to deal with your own problems. So it's like, and the right are always going to need that, because they're always dissatisfied. They're always alienated from themselves. They need to attack someone else to confirm their own identity. And yeah, it's weird. It can't be a happy state to be in. Imagine constantly feeling like you're under attack, and you're constantly feeling like your non-existent values are being, dragged down. That's a horrible life, it sounds to me. So, we're on the gay side, both literally being advocating for gay people and LGBT, but also on the merry side. We're going forward. We can actually move somewhere, which is great.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like this scapegoating of the other, because we've seen it. I think the most popular front of this has been with Islamophobia that we've seen within our lifetime, like post 9/11, the rise of the EDL, and the general acceptance of so what the BNP was, and then what it morphed into. I remember I was at Speaker's Corner once, and I was like. I was having a good debate with there's a bunch of EDL guys, and they all came and they tried to get me to shut up because I was a socialist, and I was like, no, free speech. Anyway, so and they were trying to intimidate me. They stood around me in a circle, and I just knew there was an EDL. They were all drinking beer, like they all had shaved heads and like patriotic tattoos. Yeah, like how many of them actually ever been in the military? Like none of them. Anyway, and Christian values, never been inside a church, have no spiritual feelings towards Jesus whatsoever. Love the Stella Artois though. So they were all there, and then they I was like, right, who do you like? I know you're the EDL. Just admit. No, no, no. I was like, right, who do you vote for? Who do you vote for? Who do you vote for? And one of them was just, he was just thick enough to respond honestly, and and he was like, BMP, like that,
Oh,
and I was like, oh, but aren't the BNP anti-Semitic? And the EDL claim that they're not. So what we've seen, they're exactly the same people. They're exactly the same people. Okay, it's the uneducated, unsuccessful lumpen proletariat on the football terraces. They used to stigmatize the Jew in the 1930s. They would have been in Oswald Mosley's black shirts, and in 2010 they were in the EDL. Okay, so they're exactly the same people. And like for that man that was like 40 something years old at that time, when he was 20, he would probably have been in the National Front. Now, if you can't be racist anymore, it's just like it's not acceptable in society in the mainstream. I'd say. Like people still are racist behind closed doors, but in the mainstream outside, you can't racially abuse someone. Someone will challenge you on that now.
Yeah.
So they've morphed into but it's okay. It's okay to demonize everyone of the Muslim faith. And I think that's the most kind of popular form of hatred which I've seen within my lifetime manifest. I don't know about you.
When we were growing up, like I remember there's a lot of because there was the troubles in Ireland, and that's still going on, like IRA and remember there's lots of anti-Irish sentiment, and like I got a friend who's Irish, and he was often used to tell me, and like then the enemy inverted commas of society, and obviously there's a whole history of British colonialism and oppression against the Irish, so it's like, and when they fight back, they're the bad guys, and in a way it's kind of similar with a lot of the again we're talking about
it's laughable. It's laughable. Like go to like that small island over there. Let's go over there. Kill loads of them in the siege of Drogheda with Oliver Cromwell. You really ultra Protestant Scots, go and take over that northern bit, and we'll give you the best farmland up there. Okay, and then you can't really practice your Catholicism without being brutalized. And if you want to be successful in society, you have to convert to the Protestant faith. And then when a national sense of consciousness develops in Ireland, we'll execute every single one of the everyone in the Easter Rising, and then we can't really keep on to this anymore. But we've got a bunch of like really militant Scots in the north there that kind of like become part of it. So we'll just partition it. We'll just do a big nice line like that, and then and they're upset about it. How dare they? How dare they be upset?
So I think we're being very. I don't. We're being very. We're good. We're bringing up lots of examples, but I think I wonder let's try and get some root causes. What do you think? Like, why is there an empire? Why have there been empires? Why is there colonialism? Why is there human suffering and pointless human suffering? Why is there oppression?
Empire and imperialism and capitalism go hand in hand. Okay. So again, going back to being a history teacher, seeing the development of the British Empire, like it was inspired by other empires. Okay, so empire is always inspired by empire. So the British Empire, it was the English Empire at first because Britain hadn't joined yet. But Elizabeth I saw what the Spanish did with the Spanish Empire. They went to South America. They took over their lands. They got loads of precious metals. This looks like a good idea. So you get an age of exploration. And so everyone gets on their ships and they start trading. It always starts as trade. It always starts like capitalism, starts as trade. So you start trading, and then there's what have you got to trade for our whiskey and technology, our guns? Oh, you haven't really got much. All right, we'll take the people, okay, and then you get a slave trade emerging, okay, and then actually, in this southern bit of Africa, there's some really nice precious metals there, and we don't really want you indigenous people living there. So I tell you what. Why don't we create a base where you can just and we move all the indigenous people off it, and then we can control that trade a lot more. So you see, it's organic. Because empires exist for too long for them to be kind of as deterministic in thought as it isn't a single individual like cackling over like laughing. It's a continuity, of toxic masculine capitalism. That's what I can see as of greed. And the empire was built on greed, like money hand over fist, extorted out of India. 70 million Indians died during the time of the British Empire in famines that could have been avoided. So it comes through a lack of empathy and a false sense of ideology, an in-group, out-group psychological process. You can't treat someone that bad if you see them as the same as you. There's no way you can do it. And it just comes from white supremacy. Not every empire. has come from white supremacy. I just want to
Yeah.
hasten to add there have been empires that have been non-white. Like if you look at Shaka Zulu's empire in South Africa, he took a tribe from like 10,000 to 250,000, and the only way he did that was through brutal violence. Okay, so we can't say it's like, oh, it's the reserve of one race, but undoubtedly, white supremacy was the most potent. Okay, and it has had the most terrible impact on the globe. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. You can't really. There's nothing you can really justify about the empire. You know, oh, they built some trains in India, like wow. Like, do you know what I mean?
I guess they could theoretically have built trains without the whole conquest thing, or
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so maybe that's why, you know, when we talk about statues coming down and this kind of thing, and what we're doing, we're opening Pandora's box a bit now. We're going to say, okay, let's actually look at the history and let's actually question why are we celebrating this? Why are we celebrating this person? Why are we celebrating that person? And you're shaking the ground, like you're shaking up people's worldview. Then that it's Pandora's box opening. People don't want to face the harsh realities about you know what their ancestors might have done or what they're complicit in now. So it's like maybe that's why people are so emotional. I know we talk about, oh, we're getting triggered on the left, us snowflakes. Really, a damn load of emotion and overt emotion comes from the people who are like calling us snowflakes, the kind of reactionaries. They're just emotion. They're just emotion, man.
Like
they don't have.
If you look at those statues as well, like who are they? They're ardent capitalists. Yeah. I mean, okay, let's take some that aren't slave. Like I've never seen a statue of a working class man who like did something like for good. They're always like ardent capital or a philanthropic capitalist that had like a semi heart and gave some of their wealth away. Like they're like are these really like the models to celebrate? And almost uniformly men, hardly any female statues. And so you got to wonder about the messages which these statues send out to society. And it's like this subtle process of indoctrination where you're past. And you know, if you're a woman, you know, it's going to feel alienating just to see men celebrated like everywhere. It's like, you know, what are we celebrating? Why are we celebrating it? Should that still be there?
Yeah.
And you know, the big answer was no.
like what's that? You know, the philanthropy thing, like all these philanthropists, like one of the slave traders in Bristol was a philanthropist, gave some of his ill-earned wealth away to charity or whatever. You know, I mean, in the modern age, I think philanthropy is just like hiding the fact of how brutal and horrible people are, and how these super billionaires who can give away 0.005% of their wealth. Wow. You know, amazing. You see, it's not just capitalism. They gave away 0.005% as well. It's like, well, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but I guess the statue. I mean, the statues aren't like not like the most important part of like what we're fighting for. It's more like symbolic, isn't it? And it
is very symbolic, and that's why people get upset about it. And I think like with the right and left. You know, a lot of the time, if you speak to people on the right and you talk about some left policies and you say like, you know, like, don't you think if we redistributed wealth, that would be a good thing for society? And they're like, yeah. And like, don't you think if we had a greener country and less pollution, that'd be a good thing? Yeah, yeah. Don't you think if we reduce working hours and that you relax with your family and have quality time, that'd be a good thing? Yes. All right. So if you say that, if you talk about the policies to them, they like them, and then as soon as you give it the badge of socialism, like I'm not having a communist take my freedoms away. Like, no, we're trying to liberate. We're trying to liberate you from this misery. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide you with a better life. And, you know, as soon as that tag of socialism is presented, that's when they become alien, because for them their values are patriotism. And I wanted to speak about this.
Yeah. Yeah,
because for such a long time I wanted to be patriotic. Like I look back in my 20s, I even wrote like blogs on like how great it was to be patriotic in my 20s.
Fair enough. I mean, fair enough. Yeah, it's a journey.
But because the thing is, the reason that it gets people, because it's positive, okay, and it feels good. So it's like, you know, if you think, oh, look at Shakespeare and Sir Isaac Newton, and like, you know, if you just cherry pick the good things of course things are going to look positive, but it's a very narrow. So I'm just laughing at myself. It's a very narrow perspective to take, and the thing is that there's an optimism, and this is the thing about fascism. There's an optimism about it. You know, if you look at Donald Trump and you look at Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler, etc., etc., you know, make America great again. And Hitler was like this visionary, like, you know, failed architect, but I'm going to make this architecture in Germany. It's going to be classical and great. It's going to look like this future tomorrow. So they've actually got a very optimistic future and a very terrible now. So, you know, we're in these chronic problems now, but in the future it's going to be great. And so they sell people this spiel. And patriotism is so, it's so cherry picked. It's so cherry, and you know, it's like an opiate of the masses. It literally makes you feel good. Yeah, like if you're genuinely patriotic and, like, you know, England score a goal, like I cannot help but feel like that when England play football. I still feel like I get that rush of, like, euphoria when England score a goal. I do. I'm just gonna put it out there. I admit it. But that is the extent of my patriotism these days.
I don't think that's problematic. I think, like, we might all feel a natural love for where we grow up, where, you know, the type of culture we grew up with. I mean, we're most fluent in our own language and in our own culture, so it makes sense that we're going to be. And I think maybe making the left not patriotic, not like hardcore, like, you know, cheesy patriotism, but just having a healthy pride. You can be British. You can be proud to be. You can have a bit of pride to be British, but, like, you know, just be realistic with it. Not like, as you're saying, cherry picking the good things and leaving out the bad things. No, you can be proud of your identity, but be honest with yourself. Go through all the bad stuff and work through it. But I think there is some positive patriotism. Like, we're proud of the NHS. I mean, it's not patriotism, but, you know, NHS. We're proud of it. We're proud of tea drinking. We're proud of Blackadder in our comedy. I get a bit patriotic with Americans, you know. I do love Americans and so on, but I'm like, yeah, British comedy. You know, we had Monty Python. Who are you? The football. Why not? So why shouldn't you? You know, that's a great medium to reach out to people and meet people, and there's no shame involved in that. Everyone's a bit patriotic, but some people use it as to make up for their own lack and to to push away other people, and dehumanize them and other them.
Like, but the lowest common denominator. The lowest common denominator. So if you look at, like, English patriotism, and people say I'm English, really, I think what they're saying is I'm white. Yeah, that's what I really like. That's what I hear. Like, when they say I'm English, you know, like, I really hear I'm white there. That's what I hear. But when I hear people say they're British, I think that's, for some reason, I don't know why we have these affiliations, but I think of something which is more wide in its scope. But what you say about localism is really interesting, actually, because people do get really attached. Like, you know, there's like a local woodland. You know, if the bulldozers came, I'd be like laying in front of them, like, no, you know. So there are positive aspects to having a keen. There are positive aspects to having, like, a keen feeling for your locality, because if you really don't care about something, why are you going to improve it? How's it ever going to improve if you really don't care? So, but I think that's as patriotic as you can get. I think it's more important to focus on social class.
I guess, like, why should you only care about the rest of humanity when you're also part of humanity? You should care about yourself as well and your surroundings and the beauty of your surroundings, and you come into contact with your own people so much. So, but I guess when it stops there, when your care stops, you know, you don't think, you see the shopping mall, you don't think beyond the mall. Once you start thinking about the people who made those clothes in sweatshop conditions, the workers in the shopping mall who are exploited themselves, the homeless guy you walk past, you know, like, really expand your consciousness until you contain all of humanity. And just to paraphrase Jeremy Bentham, one of my favorite utilitarian philosophers, eventually the mantle of humanity extends over everything that breathes. In other words, giving moral value to everything, even animals. I think that should be the culmination of our project, in my view. That's what we should be moving towards. Extend our compassion to everything.
Yeah, but it's hard to get. In fact, I feel like the left is trying to drag the rest of society towards that more compassionate place. So one of my favorite philosophers, Vladimir Lenin, said sometimes history needs a push.
Yeah.
Sometimes history. So I think, you know, we are pushing society ever further towards this.
Mm-hmm.
That's only a good thing. That's only a good thing.
So that's how I think compassion is a vital part of it. There's the other part, as you were saying, if you're quoting one of your favorites of that kind of push, but also like self-interest, man. I mean, why am I a socialist? Self-interest. You know, it's in my self-interest as well as collective interests. We're not like sacrificing ourselves. Really, the people who are out there, the people who have like a natural. I used to know men, like hard men, like you'd go near their stuff a bit. Oh, get away from my space! Get out of my space! They'd be like proper hard men. They'd be fighting each other, really toxic, masculine, like powerful guys, built like yourself, Sam. But they were much less controlled. But like every day they go to work and they'd obey a boss for 8 hours. Then they'd come back. It's like when they will have this submissive part of them as well. They'd obey authority. That's being cucked, man, by the system. To put it bluntly, they're like sacrificing themselves. They're not. That to me looks like self-negation. Like they're not self-interested. They're kind of giving themselves away to this work, and then when they come home, they'll take it out on people they perceive as weaker. It was just really weird.
Yeah, I think social class is it has been erased from the news narrative. No one talks, so it's not on any news narratives, and it should be, because it's like Britain is such a rigidly class-based society, and it's so fascinating. Like, I live in like this bourgeois, like leafy suburban house, and if I walk like 5 minutes to my local park, there's an estate on it. And then there's like this super new build complex where the even more bourgeois people live. Like, and there's me, there's me, like in my stupid, like capitalist thinking, like if I just had £50,000 more, I could have got one of those houses. It looks like something from like an American film where they have like white picket fences and and like they have like so, but it's just so fascinating that we all inhabit the same space, and it's such an important thing, and we don't talk about it, we don't teach it. The conversation around it, we've been talking about left issues. Like this is the first time I think we've brought up social class in a meaningful way. Like, how many people cognize the fact that they've got more in common with people all around the world because they're social class? They don't. Like, people are rigidly stuck into nationalism and borders and boxing themselves in. And if people just realised their like class consciousness, it would just elevate them so much more highly, wouldn't it?
Well, there's forces at play dividing us, isn't there? Like the ruling class, whatever you want to call them, like the 2 or 3% or whatever it is, But even people in the public eye, like even powerful politicians and so on, they want us to divide it. They don't want us to associate with the Spanish workers or even like workers in Bangladesh or whatever. They want us to identify with them. They'll get us through, and these other people are dangerous or lesser, and they're going to wipe us out. I mean, but part of the whole right-wing narrative is anxiety, isn't it? Like, your people are on attack. We talked about this last time. You're going to be a minority in your own country. They're going to come and take away all your jobs. These lazy immigrants sit around all day taking everyone's jobs.
Exactly. Schrodinger's immigrant. How dare they work and take benefits at the same time? How dare they?
Lazy workers.
How dare they? How dare those hardworking, lazy, educated, non-educated immigrants?
We got empiricism. I think all economists agree immigration is good. It boosts economies up. It makes everyone's standard of living better. It's just it makes some people afraid. It's like there's a lack of how do we reach out to people who don't respond to facts and to studies? How do you I've been trying so hard, man.
You can't reason with the unreasonable. Pascal said, the heart has reasons of which reason is ignorant. And like, people like to think of that in a romantic, loving way, but the heart can also be very hateful. Yeah. So like if someone is governed by their metaphorical heart to be hateful, it's going to be very, very hard to reason. I don't know if you've ever met like a real extremist, and like you start talking to them, and it starts to dawn on you that they're an extremist, and you've just been wasting your time for like what a waste of time for the last you don't get me wrong, you can get them on both sides. You can get like some hardcore like Stalinist, like really, 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 really far left, like justifying like Holodomor, like the famines in the Ukraine and etc. and like the murder of like millions of peasants like during collectivization during the society. And then like you speak to people that are just so hateful, you can't get through to them. Like some people you'll never reach, and I think we just have to accept that. Like why would you want to waste your oxygen and your very very small smidge of life that we have on this this rotating rock on people who are just completely governed by hate? It's those people that are just more moderate and more open minded and more amenable, like that. Like we've got to see, but you can only find them through discussion, can't you? Like your American priest friend.
Oh, don't mention that. God, but that's like I was going to bring up later, but so we're talking about people who can't change. I guess theoretically, if they, I think it's like a psychological thing, you know, that these people might have depression and despair. I was going to touch on this actually. Some of my friends who are brilliant, very intelligent, some of them have studied philosophy and they're like really clever, I'd say more apt with philosophy than myself, and I'll just say that openly. But yeah, they have depression and despair. And then they end up losing faith in change. And they end up in this nasty, nihilistic place where they're like, sometimes they say things like, oh, better if humanity didn't exist, or like, the population's too big, we're just doomed, human beings are inherently bad, which is all absolute BS. But it's like, I see myself, you know, not to like praise or blow our own horns too much, but like a joy, a merriness.
Yeah.
Like a happiness, a contentment, which is essential to survive in this world. You've got to be happy or at least content, and deal with your own problems as well. And then you can be free from the nihilism which the right feeds on. You know, especially the far right. That's the nastiest, man. All those angry working class EDL guys who are going, "Oh, you," those are sad men. They're just sad men.
They are.
They're just depressed, lost men.
Feel sorry for them.
And they're hiding it. They can't accept their vulnerability. They couldn't trust the people around them. They're not going to trust you or me. They're just going to keep venting their anger, either until they change or they perish when they're, you know, on their deathbed. Maybe then they'll convert. Who knows?
But
I wouldn't hold my breath.
You're so right. You're so right about that. It's like, why do they feel the need to conglomerate together with so many other like people who are just like chanting hate? You know, like you can imagine going to one of those EDL marches and like the lack of intellectual discussion. Like, have you ever seen the like Muslimic ray guns interview?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, so you know, and some of these people are really vulnerable. Like that guy is vulnerable.
Totally.
He was vulnerable, totally. And he was indoctrinated by someone who was more intelligent. Look, not all of them are complete dribbling idiots. There are some very literate and intelligent, sad, horrible people, like who are espousing this hatred. But you know, because they can put a sentence together, and I've met them and I have debated them. So not all of them are on that low level. But can you imagine the general vibe and theme of an EDL march where they're all just like chugging Stella Artois, getting like progressively more fighting each other. Often they infight.
Really?
If they can't find a good snowflake to fight, they get frustrated. You support West Ham. Like, you know. Like, it is just like a really sad existence. Like, it is the ultimate form of toxic masculinity, isn't it? You know, because what they're doing, they're drinking shed loads of beer, which is like destroying their body and making, like, giving them, like, isn't there loads of estrogen in beer? So, like filling their bodies like full of estrogen, like making themselves obese, killing their brain cells, like in this like really really small echo chamber of hate. And you know, and no meaning, no depth, no talk of other ideas, no openness to change. Like, you know, they're the people we should really like feel sorry for. They are the very the very definition of the lumpen proletariat, completely unaware of class consciousness, completely hostile and voting against their own interests, and would campaign against it tooth and nail. 4-day week, I'll punch you in the face.
I don't need help. I don't need no benefits. I do it on my own. It's like mixed with a pride as well, you know, mixed with hubris.
Yes, like you know, when Nye Bevan introduced the NHS, this would be the guys like a National Health Service. I'll punch you in the face, like, and then you know. You know, like when Nye Bevan like got inside toilets on council houses and said there's nothing too good for the working class. What a lad, by the way, what a lad he was. And then, you know, can you imagine this reaction right? What, you mean I'll get a toilet inside my house so I don't have to have a cold bum on on the shitter outside? No, this is a communist subterfuge. Like, you're not seeing it for what it is. Like, they're not seeing it for what it is. Like, they're just so closed like to it. And they don't. Then they don't. And the thing is, because we're so far removed from them, they don't listen to us. The way we speak, you know, like the way I look, I can get away with it. But as soon as I start opening my mouth for more than 30 seconds, like.
So this is a good point, and this ties into the culture war. Like the nasty right, the right wing nasties can communicate with these people. We need to learn to be able to do it without without being snobbish, without being, without being overly academic. Like, I cut my hair and had a trim because I looked a bit like a nutty, stuffy professor before. And I thought, image isn't everything, but image leads to depth, doesn't it? People see me and my hair, and they're like, oh my God, who's that twonk? They won't even listen to what I'm saying. So it's like,
but this is...
We got an image problem. I think they have too, but like we've got an image problem as well, Sam. We got to find real ways to like sustainably like reach out. And as you were saying earlier, if you don't mention socialism, don't mention leftism, you can get through to people. But also, if it's un-British to be socialist as well, but that's not the British way, is it? Like we also have to make socialism British. It is British. Like the diggers in 1649, the true levelers, they were like early communists. They were as British as anything. The Peasants' Revolt,
What
14th
Tyler?
century. What Tyler, John Ball, man. Big up. These are our homies, man. Hold tight, guys. And all sorts of the NHS, you know, the proper labourers we're talking about. Like these are British. This is also a kind of But like, how do we reach out to these?
Keir Hardy.
We laugh at.
Grew up in the 90s.
I feel a bit guilty to that. Like we have like laughing at these kind of like we need to reach out. These people are working class and they are like probably the most oppressed. Like I've seen some documentaries on like the forgotten white working class in Manchester, in some town. Just like life is just grim. There's no hope there. There's not those little steps you can take. You can't even go volunteer. It's like, we've got to make life better for people. That's how the left will triumph in the end, by making people's lives better, making people's lives happier, creating spaces where people can find themselves, commune with others. We're a social species. It's in our nature, isn't it? Like, what we need to do, man.
Yeah, like socialism is social, communism is about communes. You know, so like it's I think though it is very hard. I think they're so indoctrinated. It's hard to reach out. Like, you know, if you even try to have a kind of conversation on this level with a lot of these people, they turn off. They're more interested in their panem et circumcis. You know, they're like, you know, they want to read their Sun newspaper, look at the back and see that, you know, Millwall's doing well. That satisfies that satisfies them. So it's very hard to reach people that just don't want to listen as well. Like and make a lifetime's habit of not listening. Like, you know, like turning off the news, turning off the politics. As soon as someone talks about, shut up, we don't talk about that. You know, have you met someone that just hates intellectual discussion? No, shut up. like silencers, professional silencers, and I'm just like, ugh. like they're even worse. So it's a tremendous challenge, but I think the best way is education, and we've got a long way to go in Britain. You look at Scandinavian models; they're far ahead of us. Like Finland is like the gold standard, and you know we've got to create citizens. I think Scandinavia just has it right because they're patriotic in the fact they love their country, but they love it so much they want everyone there to have a nice life. Whilst in Britain, I don't see that kind of patriotism. I don't see that mindset. That like it's as long as I'm all right, Jack, and that's it.
Yeah, and I guess that these workers, these are angry guys. They're always 1 year away from getting a promotion, or 1 year away from one business idea away from making £1 million. So they're kind of living this dream that will never come true as well. To kind of
only fools and horses. This time next year, Rodney, we'll be millionaires. Says the guy totally, on the Peckham estate. Like, you know, what a great example of kind of 1980s hopeful factorism. He was. So I don't know if we've got to any conclusion. I think this is about half an hour though. Now I don't know.
I think this was good. We're kind of getting a bit further forwards. It's such a massive issue. I'm glad we touched on like morale and despair, and touching on misinformation and fear to open Pandora's box is quite a big one, and aspiration and so on. But
openness, we need to talk about that more next time. Openness, I think.
Education. practical ideas. How do we like, how do we really go forward? You know?
How do we untangle this knot?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Right. Okay. Is that it? Is this
I
it?
think that's part 2 done. Yeah, I think
All
that's it.
right. I'm going to press the
See you,
button.
folks.
All right.
See you,
Goodbye.
Sam.
Goodbye.
It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. Right. Stop recording.